Hi friends, welcome to Timing of Events part 2. So last time friends you saw that Jupiter had completed 2 rounds of transit. Yes, so after 2 rounds of transit, the native's age was 24, and then when the native was in the 25th year, what happened? With that we ended the previous session. So a quick recap so that you can friends also get the hang of things. So friends, you can see that this is in this chart we will predict according to Bhrigunandinadi the progression of the natal Jupiter. Yes, the natal Jupiter's progression within the chart. Jupiter is the significator of the native. Friends, you can see that Jupiter is in the first house. Jupiter is in the house of Virgo. Actually, according to Bhrigunandinadi, Jupiter is wherever Jupiter sits, that house becomes the first house of the native. Yes, so here Jupiter is in the house of Virgo, so definitely this house is the first house, okay, because Jupiter is there. So friends, Jupiter stays in one zodiac sign for 1 year. So we can say that Jupiter will stay in the house of Virgo for 1 year, then Jupiter will stay in the house of Libra for another year. So first year, second year, third year, when the native will be around 3 years old, Jupiter will stay in the house of Scorpio, then Jupiter will go to the house of Sagittarius, Capricorn, and so on, and Jupiter will reach up to Leo. And when Jupiter reaches the house of Leo and stays in the house of Leo for 1 year, so by that time Jupiter will have completed 12 years. That is the first round of Jupiter's transit. Okay friends, then the second round will begin from the house of Virgo. Here again, then when Jupiter will come back here to its original position, then the native will be around 13 years old. Okay friends, then 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, so on. If you go on and on, you will see that when the native is 24 years old, then again Jupiter will reach the sign of Leo. So that is by the age of 24 years. So Jupiter will complete the second round of transit as well. Okay friends, so after completing the second round of transit, once again Jupiter will come to its original position, that is, it will come to the house of Virgo, and from there the third round of transit will begin, and at that time the native's age will be around 25 years. Yes friend, around 25. Why? Because it can be 25, 25 and a half, nearing 26 also it can be, say 25, 26, that's roughly, but yes, it's around 25, 25 and a half, you can say. Okay friends, all right. So now the third round of transit has begun. Friends, up to the second round of Jupiter's transit, the second round, whatever happened in the first 2 rounds of the natal Jupiter's transit, yes, or progression, so that I have friends discussed in Timing of Events part 1. Yes, how to time events, that video part 1, there I have discussed. Please watch that video. And this is part 2. So today we will begin the discussion from the third round of Jupiter's transit. Yes friend, so friends, you can see that at the age of 25 years Jupiter will be in the house of Virgo. Okay, again, so last time also in part 1 I told you, I'll just quickly repeat that. So at the age of 25 years, the native did very well in the master's degree final examination, because Jupiter is also the significator of the 9th house in the natural zodiac. Yes friends, Jupiter is actually the lord of the 9th house, because you have the sign Sagittarius there. Yes, so Jupiter is the natural lord of the 9th house. So Jupiter stands for higher education, especially the education which you acquire at the university. The education which you acquire at the university, that is signified by Jupiter. So friends, that is why the native secured wonderful results in the master's degree level at the university, because Jupiter is also in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is also a planet which stands for education, and Jupiter is higher knowledge, higher education. So in master's degree the native did very well. The native was a topper actually. Yes, a university topper. Then friends, what happened, sorry, you see Saturn is also there. Saturn also in Virgo. Virgo is also in the sign ruled by Mercury. Mercury also shows education. So this means, friends, that the native got a job. Saturn is also the significator of job or profession. What kind of job? In the field of education, because Saturn is also in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So a job in the field of education. So the native became a lecturer, or you can say the native became an assistant professor in a college. So the job of a teacher in a college the native got. And Jupiter is also, as I told you, Jupiter also refers to teachers. Yes, and Saturn is profession. So the teaching job, the native got a teaching job, and the native did very well in the master's degree, and in that very year the native got a teaching job as well. Yes friends, okay. And Jupiter is also the significator of prosperity, and Jupiter is coming over its own original position. So now that will ensure that the native gains prosperity. So that will ensure that the native must have gained prosperity. Obviously you should also look at the nakshatra of Jupiter in which it is placed, and also the zodiac sign. In Bhrigunandi Nadi, friends, we believe that Jupiter is in the sign ruled by Mercury. Mercury and Jupiter, they support each other, because after all they are both planets that are connected to knowledge and education. Okay, so we believe in Bhrigunandi Nadi that Jupiter and Mercury actually support. Without a strong Mercury, you cannot gain knowledge ultimately, which is signified by Jupiter. So Mercury and Jupiter, they need to support each other also. Okay friends, then so all that we can see. So the native got a job and all that. Then what happened, friends? Then last time also I told you that at the age of 26 years, so when the native was around 26 years, Jupiter, the natal Jupiter now is in progression. So Jupiter reached the house of Libra. Yes friends, so Libra is a sign ruled by Venus, and Venus is the significator of marriage. And Libra, especially the sign of Libra, symbolizes relationships. Yes, so, and Venus is the lord of Libra, lord of this sign Libra. So marital relationship, marriage, the native got married at the age of 26. When Jupiter, the natal Jupiter, reached the house of Libra, the house which is ruled by the sign of Libra, because Libra is a zodiac sign which is ruled by Venus. Venus is the significator of marriage. So she got married. The native got married at the age of 26. She got married. The female native got married at the age of 26. By the way, friends, I would just like to mention here, even if it is a male native, if it is the case of a male native, then also Venus signifies marriage. The house of Libra signifies, if Jupiter would travel to the house of Libra, then also in the chart of male natives you will see that there is definitely a promise of marriage. If there are certain afflictions or other aspects which are not supporting, then that is a different matter. Otherwise, it could be, the marriage could be denied if there is some malefic influence, but otherwise when the natal Jupiter travels to the house of Libra, even if it is the case of a male native, then also marriage is promised by the chart. This is what we believe in Bhrigunandi Nadi. Yes friends, so when the natal Jupiter reached here, this house lauded by Venus, lauded by Venus, because the sign of Libra is there, the native got married at the age of 26. After that, what happened? What all happened? That also we can see from the chart, friends. We will see soon now. Then again, 26, 27, 28, 28, 29. Okay friends, 29. So here you know that Ketu is there. Which planet is there? Ketu. And last time I told you that Mars's aspect is falling. Mars's 8th aspect. Mars's 8th aspect is falling on Ketu. Ketu is in Capricorn. So you can see that Mars's 8th aspect is falling on Ketu. And Jupiter has reached their natal Jupiter. The native's age is how much? 29. 26, 27, 28, 29. At the age of 29, Mars-Ketu combination, Jupiter reached there. The native had to undergo a surgery again. Even earlier on, once I had told that at the age of around 16, I think, in part 1 I had told that the native had to undergo a surgery. Now again the native had to undergo a surgery. Yes, so this happened at the age of 29. Yes friends, Mars-Ketu combination. I am not saying when Mars-Ketu combination is there, always surgery will happen. Always surgery may not happen. Something else might be there. But Ketu shows surgery. Even Mars shows surgery. Yes, so that is why when Mars shows any kind of instrument that is used in surgery also. Yes, and Ketu shows going deeper and deeper, going to the roots, the root of the problem. So Ketu goes deep. So Mars, Ketu together, they show surgery. Yes friends. So, but it also sometimes what happens, Jupiter is crossing over a particular house, okay, and there if Mars, Ketu somehow either both of them are placed in that house, or maybe Ketu is there, Mars's aspect is falling, or Mars is there, Ketu's aspect is falling, and Jupiter also has reached. If such a thing happens, then also I told you last time in the previous video in part 1 that the native, once what happened, the native fell sick. The native was very sick, the native was suffering from typhoid, and the native had to be given so many injections, medicinal injections. So it may not always be surgery, it may even be injections. Strong doses of injections were to be given because the native was suffering from a severe typhoid. So Mars Ketu can show that also. It is not necessary always there has to be a surgery. Or it can even show Ketu is also connected to the field of occult knowledge. And Mars is also desire. So if the native, has a desire to follow the field of occult knowledge and is totally absorbed, in the study and in the exploration of the occult world, wants to explore the field of occult knowledge and is doing that with all his, desire, or is doing that particular thing, heart and soul. So Mars shows desire, enthusiasm, and Ketu also represents the world of occult. Mars also in the natural zodiac is Mars is the natural lord of the 8th house because the sign of Scorpio is there. Mars also carries 8th house energy. Ketu also is exalted in the sign of Scorpio. So Ketu will be, you can say, exalted in the 8th house in the natural zodiac. That also you can say. Ketu is considered to be good in Scorpio, in Sagittarius also, like that. So friends, Ketu is kind of exalted in Scorpio. So you can say that Ketu carries 8th house energy, Mars also carries. So if the native is using 8th house energy in a positive way, when Jupiter, the natal Jupiter is the significant of the native. When the natal Jupiter reaches a particular house where you have Mars and Ketu, somehow Mars and Ketu's influence, or presence is there in that house, and Jupiter reaches there, then if the native is totally, absorbed in the field of occult knowledge, is totally engrossed in that field, or is totally, actively engaged in researching, especially because 8th house also shows research. So friends, I was saying that if the native is positively using the 8th house energy, yes, and Jupiter is, has reached a house where there are Mars and Ketu, and the native is absorbing the energy of the 8th house in some way, then definitely you can say even the surgery can be avoided. Means friends, planets will kind of exhibit their energy. They have to, because that energy, you know friends, energy cannot be destroyed. It will be converted in some form or the other. Yes. So because that energy of that planet or those planets, you know, that energies, those energies are there in that house, and natal Jupiter, that is the native, you can say, the Jupiter, which is the significator of the native, has reached that house, then those planets will definitely, you know, kind of manifest their energy in some way. So if you can divert that energy, if you can convert that energy into something positive, creative, into something, you know, in a very constructive manner, if you can convert that energy in a certain direction, then definitely then planets will give you different results. I mean, definitely you can say the native may be saved from surgery. So that is why you need to use the energy of planets also. You need to know that yes, I have to use the energy of planets in a certain manner. Then certain things can be avoided. It is not necessary that always they will cause surgery. And 8th house is not just occult knowledge. 8th house also includes so many other things. I've made a video on Saturn in the 8th house, friends. Please watch that. 8th house includes many things. I've also a video on what is the 8th house in astrology. 8th house includes research, technology, underground mining. 8th house includes insurance, taxation, even chartered accountancy, audit. 8th house includes all that, many things, any kind of machinery, small machinery or any kind of machinery, technology. These things are also connected to the 8th house. Research, secret agencies, whatever, investigation, any kind of investigation is connected to the 8th house. So friends, you have to know. So it is not only surgery, so many other things are connected, and it's not just occult knowledge. So I was just giving you an example how you need to use the energy of the 8th house. Okay friends, so in this case what happened when the native was 29 years old, in the case of this particular native, I'm just, friends, discussing what happened in the life of this particular native. Now so many possibilities can be there. So what actually happened in the native's life, that only I'm discussing. So I'm not telling you that Jupiter reached here, natal Jupiter reached here, so whenever natal Jupiter will reach here, Ketu is there, Mars's aspect is falling, so this only will happen. I'm not saying that. Friends, some of my dear viewers, sometimes they misinterpret also, and it's okay, because I understand the confusion can be there. And then I see in the comments that ma'am, always will there be a surgery and all. It's okay, I know people may be in doubt. But friends, that is why I want to clarify my position, that this is just a possibility, and this is what happened in the life of this particular native, to whom this particular birth chart belongs. Okay friends, so that's what I am trying to discuss. But there can be so many possibilities. Okay, so when natal Jupiter reached here, the native was around 29 years old. The native underwent a surgery. Okay, and moon is there. Moon also shows travel. So for the purpose of undergoing that treatment of surgery, the native had to leave her town. The native had to travel to another town, because in that particular town where she lived, the proper medical facilities were not there at that time. So she had to leave her town and had to travel to some other town in order to get the surgery done. So that moon also shows travel. Yes friends? Okay. So let us now proceed further. Now the age of 30 years, Jupiter reached the house of Aquarius. 30, 31, Pisces, 32, Aries. Yes friends, can you see? This is Aquarius. I hope you can see. This is Aquarius, Pisces. Yes, this is Aquarius, Pisces. Then the house of Aries. So 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Yes. Now friends, what happened? At the age of 34, you see, very interesting. I mean, not, yeah, interesting no doubt, but also something unfortunate happened in the life of the native. It is interesting for us to note from the chart. But yes, something untoward also happened in the life of the native when the native was around 34 years old. Mars in Bhrigu Nadi is also the significator of husband. Yes, friends, Mars signifies husband. So Mars is there, and you can see that Ketu is in Capricorn, but friends, we all know very well that Ketu is retrograde always. So Ketu's 50% presence and aspect will also be there in Sagittarius because Ketu is retrograde. So because Ketu's presence will also be there in Sagittarius, so from here also Ketu can cast an aspect on Mars. Mars is the significator of the husband, and Ketu is also a planet of separation. Yes, friends. So you see, friends, so many things can happen. Again, you see, Jupiter has traveled here to the house of Gemini. Again, there is Mars. Again, Ketu's aspect is falling. So Mars, Ketu. But this time it is not surgery. That's what I wanted to tell you, friends. Always it will not be the same, because planets have so many significations, friends. Yes. So here again, Mars is the significator of the husband, and Ketu will also be present in Sagittarius. Ketu is a planet which signifies separation. Yes, friends, Ketu signifies detachment, Ketu signifies separation. Yes, so what happened? The native got separated from her husband. Jupiter reached this house of Gemini, Ketu's aspect on Mars. The native got separated from her husband at the age of 34. She got separated from her husband. And friends, what else we can say? Mercury is there. Mercury shows the use of logic. So Mercury can also show arguments, because Mercury is the planet of logic. Yes, logic, intelligence. So Mercury can show arguments that might have taken place, and Mars anyway also is the significator of quarrels. Mars is the significator of husband. Mars also signifies quarrels and fights. And Mercury is logic, arguments, and also you can see Mercury is in Gemini. So yes, and Mercury is also, you can say, Rahu. Rahu's 50% presence and aspect is on Mercury, because Rahu, you can see, friends, Rahu is in Cancer. And Rahu is always retrograde. Rahu is a retrograde planet. So Rahu's 50% presence and aspect in Bhrigu Nadi, we believe, will be there in Gemini, and in Gemini Rahu is very powerful. Rahu is considered to be very powerful in Gemini. So friends, now you can see what is happening. Jupiter reached there. Jupiter is the native, the house of Gemini. There already Mars is there, and Rahu is now aspecting that house, and Rahu is kind of present also. 50% presence is in the house of Gemini. So Rahu is a planet which, you know, is a breaker of all tradition, all customs, traditions, conventions, norms of society, of culture. Rahu believes in breaking them. Rahu is a breaker of tradition. Rahu does not abide by tradition. And Rahu is now combining also with, Rahu energy is combining with Mercury. So friends, you can now the natives' thinking pattern also will be influenced by Rahu, because marriage is a social institution, friends. The native will now, because Mercury also refers to the native's intellect, the native's thinking ability, reasoning ability, that is also signified by Mercury, and now that will be influenced by Rahu. Rahu is influencing. Rahu is encouraging the native to question everything, and to question all societal institutions, including marriage. So Rahu can do that. So because the Jupiter was under the influence of Rahu, so much under the influence of Rahu. And friends, Rahu will also make you think, you can definitely, it will encourage you to to think in a very unconventional way. Yes, but friends, Rahu and Ketu, both these planets, they are also connected to our ancestors. That also, friends, Rahu and Ketu, both the planets. That is why we believe that, Ketu represents, maternal grandparents, Rahu represents paternal grandparents. So Ketu and Rahu, they stand for our grandparents, our ancestors, our past. Rahu, Ketu, they somehow represent our past, that means. So whenever the influence of Rahu will be there, friends, so you can say that it was some, it is also the influence of some past karma actually. So it was because Rahu's influence is there. So they met, they got married, and at the age of 34, at the age of 26, when the native was around 26, the native got married, and it was some sort of past life karma, because Rahu is so strongly aspecting this house of Gemini. So some past life karma is definitely playing out here, friends, because Rahu's strong presence is there. And definitely we can see that Ketu is aspecting, because Ketu's direct aspect is also there. So some past life karma is definitely playing out here, and they got separated. The native got separated from her husband when she was around 34 years old. Mars is husband, Ketu is separation. So this happened, friends. But friends, one more thing. Mercury is in Gemini. Mercury is in its own sign. Mercury is also the significator of education. And Mercury is in Gemini. And Rahu is aspecting Mercury. So for the purpose of acquiring a degree, an academic degree in the field of education, the native had to travel. Rahu is also originally in Cancer. Yes, and here Rahu will be retrograde, so Rahu is, will be here, present here as well. So Rahu anyway is the planet which shows foreign land, traveling to some foreign land. Rahu shows foreign land. So the native had to travel in that very year in which the native got divorced. So the native also had to travel to some foreign land, some place which was far away from the place where she lived. The native had to travel to that particular foreign place to acquire an academic degree. So the native was successful. The native was successful in acquiring that academic degree. Yes, so I think the native, in that very year, these events happened in the native's life. Yes, the native acquired that academic degree. The native had to travel. Rahu shows travel, going to some foreign place, and Mercury also shows education. She acquired that academic degree and she did very well, because Mercury is in Gemini in its own sign. Did very well in the field of education, acquired an academic degree. But later in that year, again, she got divorced from her husband. So friends, all these events you can see because of Jupiter's transit, to the house of Gemini. So education also, definitely in the field of education, some achievement, but then in the personal life, there was something untoward which happened. Yes, she got separated from her husband. The native got separated, and it was then initially she was separated for a while and they lived separately for some time, but then eventually it culminated in a divorce. Yes. So friends, next let us go to the house of Cancer. So when the native was around 35 years old, then you can see that Jupiter reached the house of Cancer. There you have Venus. Venus is also the significator of marriage. And you also have Sun. Sun is the significator of the 9th house in the chart of the cosmic man or Kalpurush. In the natural zodiac, Sun is the significator. Sun is the natural significator of the 9th house, friends. So sun is the significator of second marriage, because the 9th house in the chart, 9th house in the birth chart signifies second marriage, just as the 7th house signifies first marriage, 9th house signifies second marriage. Yes friends, and sun is the significator of second marriage. Believe me friends, without sun, without the presence of sun, without the aspect of sun, without a strong sun, the native cannot, go for a second marriage. The second marriage, this event will not happen. Not happen. It will be promised only if the involvement of a strong or benefic sun is there in the chart. Then only second marriage will be promised. Okay friends? So you can see here that sun is there in Cancer. Sun is regarded to be good in Cancer. Then you have Venus. Venus is the significator of marriage. Yes friends? And again Rahu. So Jupiter has traveled to the house of Cancer. This house is ruled by Cancer. Yes? Cancer sign. So after getting a divorce, the native remarried after 1.5 years. So within 1.5 years, the native remarried. The native got married to someone else, and the native traveled to a different place altogether, to a foreign place. Why? Because Rahu shows foreign land. And the native left that place where she was there, she left that place where she was there earlier on, with her first husband. She left that place, the marriage got, dissolved, the marriage was broken. And at that time also she was doing some job, so she had to leave her job also. And Rahu shows traveling to foreign land, that is signified by Rahu. So she traveled to some foreign place and there she settled down. She traveled to some foreign place, and then, the second marriage took place. That happened after 1.5 years. Around after 1.5 years, 1 year, and let's say within 1.5 years of her divorce, she got married for the second time. So these planets are showing that, friends. Second marriage and traveling to a foreign land, also for the purpose of marriage only. And she traveled to a foreign land and she settled there. So that happened when the native was around 35 years old. Okay friends? Then what happened when the native was 36 years old? Jupiter reached the house of Leo. Okay? Then 37 years old. Now third round of transit is over. Now this is the fourth round of transit, friends. So the fourth round of transit begins with Jupiter's entry into the house of Virgo, which is the original position of Jupiter in the chart. So from here the fourth round of transit begins. Okay friends? So at that time when Jupiter entered the house of Virgo, or when Jupiter was in the house of Virgo, the native was around 37 years old. So at that age, the native again got a job in a college. Saturn is profession, Jupiter is teaching. Teaching profession is also signified by Jupiter, because Jupiter signifies teachers and Saturn is profession. So again the native got a teaching job in a college after the second marriage in that foreign place. Again the native got a teaching job at the age of 37 years. Okay friends, teaching job, the job of a teacher in a college again. Then what happens friends, you see 37, 38. Yes, at the age of 38, what happened? The Jupiter reached the house of Libra. Jupiter reached the house of Libra. Yes. Now friends, you can see that Rahu will also be in Gemini, because Rahu is retrograde, no? Rahu is in Cancer, but Rahu is retrograde, so Rahu is also in Gemini. So from Gemini, Rahu's aspect will fall on the house of Libra. From Gemini, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Rahu's fifth aspect will fall on the house of Libra. So at the age of, you can say, 38, when the native was around 38, she was also under the influence of Rahu, because Rahu's fifth aspect is falling on the house of Libra. So Rahu can cause confusion, illusion, and Rahu also signifies, the world of showbiz. So the native was, attracted towards the world of showbiz also at the age of 38, because Rahu's strong influence is falling on the house of Libra. You can say that. So she was not happy with her job. She was doing this job, but then she was somehow drawn towards, the world of showbiz, the world of, television. She was drawn towards that. Rahu also signifies television. Then what happened, friends? Let's see. Then at the age of 39, at the age of 39, Jupiter reached the house of Scorpio. So at that time, the native was 39 years old. You can see 39. What happened, friends? You see 39 years old. Yes. And here you see Sun, Venus and Rahu. They are in Cancer also. Sun, Venus, Rahu. They are all casting the fifth aspect on the house of Scorpio. Their fifth aspect is falling on the house of Scorpio. Yes, friends. And friends, you see Mercury is also in Gemini. So I told you that at the age of 38, Jupiter was in the house of Libra. When the native was 38, Jupiter was in the house of Libra. So there Rahu is in Gemini. So from there Rahu's fifth aspect was falling. And Mercury also, Mercury's fifth aspect also. Mercury is also in Gemini. Mars also, Mars's fifth aspect also. Because in Nari astrology we believe that all planets, they have this fifth aspect, trinal aspect. Very important and very powerful. 75% powerful. Okay, friends? So you can see Mars, Mercury, Rahu, all of them are casting their fifth aspect when the native was in the house, when Jupiter was in the house of Libra and the native was 38 years old. So at that age, Mercury shows education. So the native was, acquired education also in the field of acting. She even went for a professional course in acting, because Mercury shows any kind of education or any kind of course that you want to do. It could be even any professional course. When you want to learn something, when you want to acquire some sort of a certificate in any course, Mercury can signify that, because Mercury is primarily in Bhrigunandinari stands for education. So the native also, because Mercury is aspecting, Rahu is aspecting. Rahu will also be in Gemini. So from here Rahu is also aspecting. So at the age of 38 years, the native also did a course in acting. She did a professional course actually. It was, I think, a 1-year course, in acting, because the native was drawn towards the world of showbiz. Why? Because Mercury, Rahu. So in what kind of field she acquired education? In the field of acting, in the field of how to become an actor. So she did an acting course, a professional course in acting. So that also at the age of 38. And then, friends, finally what happened, you see. At the age of 39, very interesting, Jupiter reached the house of Scorpio. And there you see, friends, Sun, Venus, Rahu, all are casting their fifth aspect on the house of Scorpio. Venus and Rahu, when they cast their aspect, they show any kind of video recording technology that is represented by Venus and Rahu. So Venus and Rahu and Sun shows that your personality will be, kind of projected, that you will be like kind of, Sun is your personality, which, is public also. Because Sun is the natural significator of the first house of your chart, which is the house of yourself. So how you are perceived by the world, that is signified by the planet Sun also. how your self is perceived, how your image is perceived by the world, that is signified by sun. So the native, and Venus Rahu video recording technology, the field of acting, and the native, and also being telecast. So the native, like being kind of filmed. So the native actually acted in television serials at the age of 39 when Jupiter reached the house of Scorpio. The native acted on national television in a number of television serials. The native became an actor or actress, you can say, and acted in a number of television serials as well, which were shown on national television, because sun is the planet which will exhibit your personality, and Venus and Rahu, they are connected to video recording technology. They are connected to the technology which is definitely behind television or cinema. Television, cinema signified by Rahu, Venus and Rahu together. So definitely the native's face, Venus is also the significator of the face, and camera, Venus and Rahu together, video recording technology. The native acted in television serials and video recording was done, and it was also telecast. It was also shown on national television, which is shown by sun. Sun shows that it is going to be now. Everybody will be able to see that as well. So Venus, Sun, Rahu together. Their fifth aspect is a trinal aspect, very strong. It is falling on this house of Scorpio. So at the age of 39 years, friends, this event happened. Like throughout that year, the native was busy in acting in television. The native was actually engaged in acting. So and she was working as a TV actress. Okay friends, then what happened, you see? Then at the age of 40, when the native was around 40 years old, then Jupiter reached the house of Sagittarius. Jupiter reached the house of Sagittarius at the age of, when the native was around 40 years old. Ketu is in Capricorn. Ketu's strong presence is also there in Sagittarius. And Mercury is education. Mercury is also aspecting the house of Sagittarius, direct aspect. So now Mercury Ketu combination is forming in the house of Sagittarius, where the native has reached, where the Jupiter has reached when the native is around 40 years old. So the native was, now what happened, you see friends, the native was drawn towards the field of occult knowledge. The native at the age of 30, I told you just now, 39 years. At the age of 39 years, the native acted in a few television serials, and maybe in the process, eventually the native got disillusioned. The native was totally disillusioned, and by the time Jupiter reached the house of Sagittarius, the native decided to quit the world of showbiz. Yes, the native decided to quit the world of showbiz because the native was now under the strong influence of Ketu. Ketu in Sagittarius is very powerful, friends. Sagittarius is a sign of spiritual knowledge, and Ketu is the planet which symbolizes astrology and occult knowledge. So the native got drawn towards occult knowledge. Ketu in Sagittarius is a wonderful, combination. This planet in this zodiac sign, it is a wonderful combination for studying astrology or any kind of occult field. I'm going into any other occult field of knowledge, either astrology or any other occult field. So the native turned towards astrology when the native was around 40 years old. And from the beginning of that year itself, the native was so enthusiastic about studying astrology. Yes, so friends, what happened, you see? The native left the world of showbiz, and the native, Even earlier on, the native was always fascinated by this world, but the native never took it up so seriously earlier on, because the native was busy with her job and failed marriage, and then again the native settled down. So she never really got the opportunity earlier because she was doing some other jobs as well as a teacher. But later on, you see, friends, here at the age of 40, and Ketu's strong presence is there in the house of Sagittarius. Mercury also shows logic, and Mercury is a very important planet for astrology, because without logic, without logical reasoning, you can't study. And Mercury shows education also. So the native, actually she was trained, she got trained actually to become an astrologer. She did some course, and it was a long-term course. She was seriously doing that course, and she studied so many books. Mercury shows education. She wanted to gain education in the field of occult knowledge. So friends, this is what happened. And Mars is also aspecting the house of Sagittarius. Mars also, as I told you, is connected to the 8th house. Yes, why friends? Because in the chart of the Kalpurush or cosmic man, Mars is the natural lord of the 8th house. So again, Mars is also aspecting, Mars also carries 8th house energy. So the native was drawn, and Mars also shows the desire. The native was driven by the desire to learn astrology, to explore the world of occult knowledge. She was obsessed, and she was totally, driven by that desire, and she went into the world of occult knowledge. In the very beginning of this year, when she was around 40. But then again, friends, something happened. What you see, Ketu is in Sagittarius. I told you that if you are totally obsessed with occult knowledge, sometimes planets, the energy will be, absorbed in that direction. Yes, so maybe there could have been a surgery. So maybe even you could avoid that surgery. Maybe it may happen sometimes that maybe somehow the native could escape that surgery, because again the 8th house energy has been used in this way. But unfortunately, friends, that didn't happen. The native, in the very beginning of this year, when Jupiter entered the house of Sagittarius, the native was drawn towards the field of occult knowledge. But even then, the native had to undergo a surgery. The native had to undergo a surgery in that particular year. So this shows, friends, that sometimes what happens is that either Mars and Ketu, they will manifest their energy in some way. Either you may have to you will have to take a lot of, you'll have to you'll be given lots of injections, maybe sometimes lots of medicinal injections, some treatment will be going on. Either that will happen, or it can show that anything can happen even if you are going towards occult knowledge. Now actually the native has just started learning, she enrolled into some professional course on astrology, and she had just begun to learn. But at that time she was not practicing astrology so much. So she was just trying to learn things. So it was, you can say, an initial stage. So maybe if she would be totally absorbed in astrology, if she would be practicing astrology, who knows, then maybe the 8th house energy would be absorbed even more. Because friends, what happens when you practice astrology, then you have to go on dealing with charts all the time. You have to be reading birth charts day in and day out. Even while you are asleep, you may even dream of birth charts. It happens. So friends, that means what happens, what I'm trying to tell you, if the native would be practicing, maybe then maybe the surgery would be a little minor somehow, or maybe it would not be something very serious. It would be maybe a very small minor surgery. But it was not a minor surgery. It was a surgery, friends, which took place in that very year when Jupiter was in the house of Sagittarius. The native had to undergo a surgery. The native, after the surgery, the native was on bed rest for around 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. The native was on bed rest, and slowly the native recovered. Yeah, it was a surgery. And then friends, you can say what, as the native recovered from the surgery or from her illness, the native totally was once again ready to dive deep into the world of occult knowledge. She was ready. She felt as if she got a new life after the surgery, as if it was a new life for her. And she was, and anyway she was already driven by that desire to explore the world of occult, the world of the occult. So she was driven by occult knowledge. So after she recovered from her illness, she was like, after that she totally got absorbed in studying astrology. She was totally engrossed in studying astrology when Jupiter was in the house of Sagittarius. And then she completed her professional course. I mean that she was actually doing a full-fledged course. It was a long-term course, and she successfully completed that course also. And while doing that course, she read a number of books. She also she has her mentor. She consulted a number of teachers and astrologers as well while studying. So friends, then what happened eventually, like she was totally engrossed in studying astrology and exploring the world of occult knowledge. Yes, and in this case astrology. Then friends, what happened, you see, then Jupiter reached the house of Capricorn. Yes, now Capricorn, here you have Moon and Ketu. Moon shows intuition. Ketu is again the significator of astrology. The native was able to use her intuition. Yes, the native was able to use her intuition to make sense of astrology, because astrology is also an intuitive science, friends. It is a spiritual science, it is a divine science, it is an intuitive science. So the native, when Jupiter reached this house of Capricorn, she felt as if she was gifted with the power of intuition, because anyway Ketu is also a planet which gives you intuition, and Moon and Ketu together, they were like now then, and Moon also shows your mind. So she was at the age of 41, Jupiter reached the house of Capricorn. She was mentally absorbed in studying, in researching in that particular field. I mean, she was continuing with her research, and she was mentally absorbed totally in that field, and she was researching also, yes, that field, and she was doing a lot of research. Ketu also shows research, a lot of research in the field of astrology, using her power of intuition. Moon is your intuition. So she was doing that, friends. Yes, and so that you can say. And friends, one more interesting thing you can see, that when Jupiter reached the house of Capricorn, you see friends, Sun, Venus and Rahu all are casting their 7th aspect on the house of Capricorn. So interesting. Can you see friends? Sun, Venus and Rahu, they are in Cancer. They are casting their 7th aspect on the house of Capricorn. So the native, Venus, Rahu, I told you, video recording. So the native was engaged in video recording technology. So the native has her own social media platform where she uploads videos. She records her own videos on astrology as well, and she uploads them on social media platform, because Venus and Rahu, they show video recording. And Sun is also the planet which signifies spiritual knowledge. Sun is also very important for astrology, and it signifies spiritual knowledge. And Sun also shows how the native is going to be projected, how the native's personality will be, projected in the world. Sun shows the projection of the self. Yes, and it is the how the image of the native will be kind of perceived by the world. That is also shown by Sun. So Sun, Venus, Rahu, the native was successfully able to, project herself as an astrologer on social media platforms. The native is known actually now. The native is by the age of 41. The native was well known because Sun also is the planet of name and fame, friends. So by the age of 41, the native was now well known or earned some name and fame also in the field of astrology, because the native projected herself as an astrologer on various social media platforms where people could see her talking about astrology. So video recording is shown, as I told you, by Venus and Rahu, and so the native was uploading her videos on various social media platforms. That is also shown by Sun, Venus, Rahu, and she earned name and fame as an astrologer because Ketu and Moon intuition, Ketu astrology, she earned name and fame as an astrologer, friends. And Moon also, friends, and Moon is in a very materialistic, in a way, sign, because Capricorn is an earth sign. So Moon also, friends, is the natural lord and significator of the 4th house in the chart of the Kalpurush or cosmic man. So Moon also shows your assets, because it's a lord of the natural 4th house. Moon also signifies liquid cash, even assets, property, because natural 4th house, Moon is the lord and significator of the natural 4th house, and that also in an earth sign. So the native, because you see, the native was also able to gain money. Moon also shows cash, money, liquid cash. The native was also able to gain money from astrology, and the native became an astrologer, and the native was earning name and fame as an astrologer. And the native was very lucky. She very quickly she became known as an astrologer. Sometimes what happens, friends, when you never know, sometimes a person may be connected to a certain field of knowledge, in this case astrology. Maybe even in her past birth, she had some connection with astrology. You never know. And so that is why in case of some people, they start doing it seriously, and immediately sometimes you will see they make wonderful predictions. They read birth charts in a wonderful manner, and they also project themselves on social media platforms, and they become successful. Sometimes it happens they become successful very soon also. It happens, friends. Who knows, maybe Ketu anyway is the planet which signifies past life. Ketu is connected to astrology, so maybe the native had some past life connection even with astrology. That is why the native was so successful in the field of astrology, and so soon she became successful. So friends, all these things, by the age of 41, the native, that is, you can say by the age of 41, the native was well known as an astrologer in many places, in many social circles. The native was well known as an astrologer. So friends, you see how with the help of the birth chart, we can time and predict various events that actually happened in the life of the native. Yes, friends, and we can also provide a particular native with guidance also as to regarding the native's future also, because we can see what is going to happen. We can also, from Jupiter's progression, even after the age of 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, Jupiter will go on progressing. So we can also provide the native with future guidance on the basis of Jupiter's progression. It enables us, natal Jupiter's progression in the birth chart, friends, enables you to make sense of the past, present, and even the future. So friends, it is a wonderful technique of prediction. It is a wonderful technique of making sense of your life. Yes, so this is whatever I told you today. It is as per Bhrigu Nandinadi. So friends, how we can predict various events in the life of a native with the help of the progression of natal Jupiter. So with the help of Jupiter's progression, this is how we can predict or we can time various events in the life of a native. So friends, that's all for today. Hope you liked today's session. Do subscribe to my channel and share this video. Thank you, friends.